Right. So today's session is specifically designed on deployment of models on the Heroku platform. In the previous webinars, we have done Flask model deployment locally and Streamlit model locally. Now today we will move that same model to Heroku platform. Okay, and we will have a broad discussion on what are these platforms, right? So step by steps we will go today. So we will talk about more about Streamlit while going through the application code. Before that, let's understand what is actually a deployment phase, right? Why we are talking today about deployment, right? So let's get started. So these are the agendas that I will be covering. And after this, basically, Nishit will be taking care of how to deploy a Streamlit app on a Heroku platform. Okay. Right. So as the definition of deployment says that, it says that you need to, so as a data scientist, you will be creating models, right? But the models which you create, they are basically for an end user. So what do you understand by end users? So those users who will consume the output of our model. Okay, if we are doing classification, whether a person is diabetic or non-diabetic, so who will be the users for them? Basically, hospital people, doctors, they will be the end users, right? So hence, since users cannot understand the output 0, 1, okay, so we need to tell them what is 0, what is 1, right? So this complete process of making entire model accessible to the end users is called as deployment phase. Okay, and usually this activity we perform during production activities. Okay, so production activity means making the website available for the end users to use. Now what we are deploying, we will be deploying our machine learning models. Okay, so these models which we create follows a pipeline, right? So we will be following all the pipeline, that is basically understanding the problem, doing the analysis, data analysis, domain analysis, getting the better feature, and then creating the model, right? So this we will do before even deployment. So deployments are generally done on the servers, right? So servers are nothing but the big computer machine, just the way your system is a local server, means it is local to you, right? So whenever we go on a production on a large scale, right? So when we have large scales of consumers, we cannot host our models on the system. Okay, we have lots of limitation on it. So that is why we need to go for a server deployment. So one of the server which we are going to discuss today is again the Heroku only. Okay, so there are multiple types of servers, right? Web server, database server, file server, email server. There are lots of servers. Mostly our deployment will be on the web servers. Okay, so web server will serve the request which the user will make, and they will get the output. So this is how the deployment platforms are getting ready. Right. So what kind of platforms that are available? First is on-premises server. So usually clients, what they do to make sure that security, someone should not, breach their securities. They host their server on premises, right? They own the server, they take care of the server, entire maintenance, everything is done by the company itself. Okay. Another way is cloud servers, right? So I hope you every know, like Amazon, Google Cloud, right? All these are the giant cloud servers which are heavily and most popularly used these days, right? So they are the other kind of platform available. Then we have infrastructure as a service platform, right? So infrastructure service means basically they will be giving us the tech stacks. However, on that tech stacks, you will be working on, you will be making sure that all the configurations of the tech stacks you are using, you are doing by yourself. The team will basically, the team from the infrastructure side will not do anything, right? Just they will provide the infrastructure. And the third platform is basically platform as a service, right? So platform as a service means as per your requirement, what they will do, they will tune their platform and they will allow you to use your platform. Okay, so these are the different types of platforms. When I say platform, I'm just referring to the servers only. Okay, so these are available for the deployment. Okay, most popular in these days are basically cloud servers like Amazon, right? Google, right? Azure, Microsoft Azure is there. All these are popularly available, right? However, the today's agenda is on the platform as a service. Going forward, we will also do deployments on certain clouds. So that time we will see how the deployment on the cloud servers are done. So just the way I have explained the on-premises server, so company can manage, maintain them. Okay. So everything, right? They do the setup, application data, everything. Basically, they decide. Okay. And the clouds are basically Amazon Elastic Cloud Compute, IBM Cloud is there. Okay. Google Cloud. All these are the popular cloud services available. Okay. Right. So infrastructures as a service, basically it comes from Amazon EC2. Okay. So they provides you the infrastructure where you can go do the code, do the model training and deploy it. Okay. Everything you will be deciding it. The infrastructure team will be just giving you the environment. Right. So these are the popular infrastructures available. Usually data scientists don't go and deploy on other what we can say as on this particular services, Windows, Azure, Rackspace, okay, because it becomes challenging, because a lot of things we have to do even for the model creation part. EC2 instant is little bit flexible. However, this is also not getting used. SageMaker has taken the place over here. Right. And in the platform, right, Elastic Beans is there, Heroku is there. So we are using Heroku here because, all these services which are seen here are paid services. You need to pay for it. Okay. However, Heroku is also paid service, but maximum 5 applications you can deploy for free. So that is why we have taken selected this particularly for the deployment for today's session. Okay. Right. So you can get the difference of, the different platforms we have. This is the premises, the owning like a car. Okay. Infrastructure is like lease the car. You just lease the environment and you do entire configuration. Taxi, basically it's everything is there. Wherever you want to go, it will go to a specific direction. It will have a specific start point, specific end point. Bus is a public, which is software as a service. Okay. So usually we don't go in this particular kind of deployment. Right. So any questions like means what so agenda is clear that what we are going to do today. Right. So what I'll do now, okay, I will hand over the call to Nishit, and Nishit will start with the basic Streamlit introduction, and then he will tell you how to deploy a Streamlit app on the Heroku platform. One thing, guys, Streamlit is a framework, Flask is a framework. So all these are Django, all these are frameworks, okay? So you can deploy all these applications, right? Today we are showing with respect to Streamlit, the same application if you create in Flask, that can be also deployed in the same way, right? So there will be no as such changes required to do the platform, basically to deploy on the Heroku side, okay? So over to you, Nishit.
Hi. Good morning, guys. So yeah, before we start, before we start with the deployment, I first will tell you about Streamlit and also about Heroku and how we are using both of them to deploy our end-to-end web apps. So like Shubhangi said, Streamlit is a framework. Like you must have heard about a lot of frameworks like Django, React.js, and so on. So Streamlit is also a framework, and Streamlit is used specifically to create web apps out of your existing data science solutions. Like you have your IPyNB notebooks, you have your Python files, but to actually make it accessible to people and to make a layman understand what that app is actually doing, you need to productionize it. And to productionize it, you need to have a web app or an app or some sort of that application. So without that, your solution might be the best solution in the world, but it won't be of any use to people because the lack of environment to actually test it. So to do that, we need to know like what Streamlit does and what Heroku in along with Streamlit is doing. So simply you are just using Streamlit as a framework to make your app, which is locally hosted, accessible to people via your web. Now, before moving to the web, the app that you've designed is actually locally hosted on your system. Now, before we move on, now you must be wondering, like if we store it locally, like we host it locally, then wouldn't it be a problem to showcase it to everyone? Because when we have to showcase it to everyone, we need to it's cumbersome to take your laptop everywhere and show, okay, this is my app, I built this. This is the app, you can access it like this way. This is my app, this does this and all. So why not make it a web app that is accessible to everyone remotely? So this is where Heroku steps in. Heroku is providing a cloud service, like Shubhangi said, it's a PaaS. Now PaaS is a platform as a service. So it's giving us a platform to host our software. So this Heroku platform, it is integrated with its own CLI, that is a command line interface. You can download Heroku and then start hosting your web apps. Now I'll show you a small demo of how we are hosting our Streamlit web apps. First of all, I'll show you how we are locally hosting our Streamlit web app. Then I'll show you how we are actually hosting our Streamlit app on the web, which is accessible to everyone. Is it visible?
Yes, right. It is.
Okay. So right now I'll show you how how we are hosting this a web app locally. Then I'll show you how we'll move on deploy it on the web. So this is a small Boston price prediction web app that we have written using Streamlit. Now we will host it locally on our system. To do that, I have to. So this is your Boston web app that is hosted locally on my system. Now this is very convenient that you can show someone what this is doing exactly. This is a particular web app. This is doing this. This is doing that. But to actually make it accessible to people, you need to host it on the web. So we'll move on to Heroku deployment that will actually show us how we are hosting it on web. It is very easy to set up and deploy it on the web using Heroku. So we'll move on to that soon. Just a second. So first of all, you need to go to Heroku. And after you go to Heroku, you need to create a new app. So this is your Heroku CLI documentation. Now, since Heroku isn't providing it is having error with GitHub and all, I would suggest you all to actually deploy your web app using Heroku CLI. So Heroku CLI, you can install the Heroku CLI from this link that I'm hovering over here, Heroku CLI. And after you share, after you install your Heroku CLI on your local system, you can access. I'll do a side-by-side coding of this portion so that you can keep track of what's happening. Okay. So I have already installed my Heroku CLI on my system. So after installing, I need to log in into my Heroku CLI. So I'll just pass on the command Heroku CLI. sorry. Heroku login. My bad. I'll pass on Heroku login. So after I pass on Heroku login, it will redirect me to my browser where I need to click login and it will log me into my account. I'll press on login. Now it will show me on my command prompt that I have logged in as patimishra@gmail.com. So now I'm logged in into my Heroku account using my localhost CMD. So now we'll follow the procedure of what we need to do. Now, before we move on, I have shown you we have logged in into the system. Now, before we actually host our web app, now you've seen this web app and you've seen the requirements and the libraries that it needs. Now, to take this host this web app, the server should know what are the requirements and what all it needs to set up and what all other files it needs. So whatever libraries you are importing on your Python file to be hosted, you can simply pass that as a requirements.txt file. I'll show you where we are doing that. So here we have a requirements.txt file. Now I'll show you how it's being written. So yeah, these are the libraries that we need: Streamlit, Pandas, scikit-learn, Seaborn, Matplotlib, NumPy, Plotly, and Shap. Okay, these are all the libraries that we need. So hence we are passing it into requirements.txt. Suppose you need a library, let's say NumPy. Let's say you need a library named OS. You can pass it over here. You need a library named TensorFlow. You can pass it over here. And similarly, you can edit the requirements.txt. As of now, we don't need them. These are the libraries we need. There's another thing that you need to set is called a setup.sh file. Now I'll show you how to do a setup.sh file. Now I'll open my notepad. So this is your setup.sh file. No matter what Streamlit web app you're hosting, this setup.sh file is mandatory. This setup.sh file needs to be in your current directory where your app is existing along with the requirements. And this setup.sh file is extremely important in hosting your web app. So simply you can take this text. I'm pasting it on my the chat board. Just a second. Yep. So this needs to be a setup.sh file. And once you save it, we paste it over here, just save it as setup.sh and nothing else. Just save it as setup.sh and not as a text document. You need to save it as setup.sh. And please mind all the caps and all. Everything needs to be small over here in no capital letters over here. So you can save that way. I've already done my setup.sh, so I won't require another one. So yeah, after that, we are done with the requirements.txt and we are done with the setup.sh file. Now there's another file called proc file. Now this is also a very important file that we need to have in our working directory where we have our web app. So this is specifying the Heroku CLI that this is a web app, and we already have a setup.sh, and that's the setup file that it needs to consider. And the framework that it needs to consider is Streamlit. And then it needs to pass on the command Streamlit run boston.py. Boston.py is the name of your web app. So here it is name of your web app. So this is your proc file. Now to save proc file is a bit of a dilemma. I'll tell you why. Because it gets saved default as a saved default as a text file. So just a second. To do that, to save your proc file as a file, you need to paste this. Then while you're saving it, let's say I'm saving it on my desktop. I won't save it in my working directory now. Here, you need to pass on 2 double quotes with a capital P. Remember this, with a capital P, proc file. And this will save it as a proc file after you save it like this. So proc file with a capital P, with any extension or no extension, and within double quotes, and it'll save this as a proc file. Now if we go to desktop, proc file is a type of file that we have saved now. So this gets saved as a file instead of a document. So this is what we need to take care of. So we have our proc file, we have our boston.py, we have our requirements.txt, we have our setup.sh file. Now we need to host it. That's the last thing that we need to do. So we will host it using our Heroku CLI that we have opened here in our CMD. So we have logged into our Heroku CLI. Now we need to go to our working directory. Okay. Now we are in our working directory. So after that, we need to push, like have a git in it. We have to initialize a git. Okay, so we already had a git due to a prior existing git. So it is reinitialized our git. So after you passed on a git in it, it will show that it has initiated a git repository in your working directory. Okay, now we need to push it into a remote access mode. It will go to Heroku git remote. Don't worry, all these codes will be made available to you. So just focus on how this is being hosted as of now. So we are now pushing it to a remote section. Now it is the git remote has been set from Heroku to git.heroku.com, and it is Boston Web App 1.git, which is basically our web apps working directory. So after that, we need to deploy our application. Git add dot. Then we have to git commit am. Make it better. Cool. So we have 4 files over here, 4 new files, a proc file, a boston.py file, a requirements.txt, and a setup file, as we needed like all the files. Okay. Now we need to push our Heroku master. We need to push this into our Heroku master. Okay. Now it will build our source. Now it's installing the collected packages, as you can see, web encodings or WC width and all. So yeah, here it's saying proc file declares type as web. So our proc file is telling us that, telling the CLI that it is a web-based app. So it will be hosting now as a web app. Okay, now it's hosted on HTTPS Boston Web App 1 Heroku app. It's hosted, deployed to Heroku. Now we'll open our app here. Okay, so now you can see we have finally hosted our web app. And if you want to access this web app, and you can access it now, you can send it to your friends. You can send it anywhere across the web. I'll paste it on the chat box. So yeah, now you can see like our web app is hosted over here with all the all its functionalities in full working mode. We have our scatter plots. Then we'll have, let's say, this is histogram. Let's say. Okay, we have everything working. We can see if the parameters are changing. Yep, everything is working. Now, if the sharp graphs are available or not. Okay, it's running. It's also predicting our median house value, as you can see correctly, 20.6920. This is a feature importance graph using SHAP functions. So yeah, this is your SHAP graph. This is also being shown in the web app. So basically every functionality of the web app is working. And with the added benefit that you can share it with anyone just by sharing this particular link without having to install your required libraries, install Python, install everything in every single system. Simply give the link to everyone and they can access it and they can know, okay, that's why this thing is happening. Okay, that's why the prediction is 20. That's why the prediction is false. That's why the prediction is negative. So basically a common person now can use this by just taking in the link using his phone or his or her own laptop or PC. So yeah, that's how we are hosting our web app using Streamlit and Heroku CLI. If you have any doubts, I'll be happy to take some questions. Thank you. Also, yeah, since some of you might have missed how to write a Streamlit app, I'll show you the code of how we're writing a Streamlit app. We first import Streamlit as ST. Streamlit, first you need to obviously install Streamlit in your working directory by using pip install Streamlit or conda install Streamlit, whichever you're using. After that, just a second. So here you can install Streamlit by passing this command, pip install Streamlit. I already have it, requirement already satisfied, so I need not install it. So yeah, after you install your Streamlit and all your required libraries, there are certain documentations available which will tell you how you can write. So let's say st.write is used to write a part of text onto your web app. Instead of your regular Python print command, you just pass on st.write, which is basically a print command in case of a Streamlit web app. Then similarly, you use your Python codes as usual, but wherever you have something to display to people or to interact with people, that's when your Streamlit will step in. Like again, st.write Boston will show us a data frame. Then there are things like st.sidebar. Here it pushes your select box to a sidebar. And then there's st sidebar.subheader, like heading within a heading. This will shows a heading within a heading. Then there will be st.sliders, st.set options, select box, st.sidebar.select box. Here you get to select what you need to choose, y-axis and x-axis. Here your options will be scatter plots, line plots, histogram, box plot, which is basically this portion of the web app. This portion, type of chart, scatter plot, line plot, histogram, box plot. This is this portion of the web app. And then similarly for using again this st.sidebar.header, specify input parameters. This is your sidebar's heading, specify input parameters. Okay, and these are the sliders. So for sliders, you need to have a st.slider function. st.slider function is basically used to have a numerical range slider. So here you pass on the minimum value, and here you pass on the maximum value, and here you pass on the value that is set as default. So it functions like this: st.slider of 1, 10, 5. So here your 1 is basically how your minimum value of the slider, 10 is your maximum value of the slider, and 5 is set as default. So yeah, just to show you how it's working, I'll just show you a small demo, like how you're doing a Streamlit app. Import Streamlit as ST. I need to save this. Okay, so yeah, we see this demo.py, Streamlit as ST. Then here we have st. Sorry. Do you if you want to have a slider also, you can have a slider, like a sidebar slider. But if you just want a slider, then also you can have a slider. I'll just show you how to have a slider. Then I'll show you how to have a slider on your sidebar. So st.slider of 1, 10, 5. Now we'll host this locally on our system. Okay, Streamlit run demo. Okay, just a second. It's not in my working directory. Now it's in my working directory. Streamlit run demo.py. Okay, so this will be our Streamlit web app. Just a second. Why is it showing an error? Okay. Just a second. Yeah, I guess now it's correct. Yeah, so we have our slider over here. Number is a heading of the slider. Here you can adjust your slider as such. And let's say you want to assign a variable to it. So let's say you're assigning a variable a equals st.slider. And you need to, let's say you've gotten your a is equal to st.slider. You can now perform functions based on this. It will dynamically change itself. So now let's say you want to do st.write a squared is equal to a star a. Correct. We'll rerun this. So now we have a default value of 6. So it's showing us a squared is 36. Now if we change it to, let's say 4, it's showing us a squared is 16. So here, this is how you're using st.write. Now if you want to add a heading, st.title, Streamlit demo. Yes. So now we rerun it. We have our Streamlit.demo over here. So yeah, this is how you're using Streamlit basically to work around with the Python. This is very easy to understand. Streamlit is a very easy to understand framework. You'll find the documentation to Streamlit over here. It's very easy to understand. It's you just have to remember where you need to take inputs, show outputs. That's where you'll have to and interact with users. That's where you have to use this framework. Rest of all, it remains the same, like how you function, how your Python functions normally. So yeah, that's how you can use Streamlit. I'll share, I'll keep the link to Streamlit documentation in the chat as well. You can refer to it, how to create an app. So yeah, that's how you can host your app locally, and also using Heroku, you can host your app to the web, which can be accessed by everyone. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me now.
All right, so I hope you got little idea how basically deployments are done. So if you could have seen the Heroku deployment, right? Entire steps are given to you on the UI side from the Heroku side. Okay, so before using Heroku, you need to register yourself, create the account, and then follow the steps what Nishit told. Okay, so what I will be doing, yes, session is recorded and you can get the recording as well. Okay, so just request the recording to care@datamites.com and they will help you out. Also, the source code which Nishit used, we will be sharing you. So just a minute, I'll share you the source code link. Till that time, put any questions, doesn't matter, a dummy question or anything, just ask it.
Yeah, sure. Just a second. Okay, so these are your required files. Boston py, which will be your Streamlit, which will be a Python file. Then you'll have your proc file, which I showed you how to create. Then I showed you the setup.sh file, how you need to create. I've pasted the code to all of it in your in all your chat box. You can keep a track of that. Then your requirements.txt, of course. This will keep all the libraries that are required by your Python web app. So these are all your libraries that you need to pass into the requirements.txt. So yeah, these are all the files you will need. I'll open it all together so you can keep a track of it. Okay, so I hope it's visible, what I'm showing right now. So you can take a screenshot of this. Basically, the first, second, and third, which is the top two files and the bottom left file, is what you'll need. And you need to save it like I have saved. And like I've said, like told you the procedure as well. So you can take a screenshot. I'll also share the zip version of this file. I'll press again share it so that you can access all the files and host it on your own to get an idea how to do it. Okay. And if you need the CMD code that I wrote, that is also available while you host it and log in into your Heroku CLI. That also will be like you can take a screenshot of that as well if you want. So yeah, this is how you'll host it on your website. Also, I'll share the zip version. Just a second.
All right. So just check your Zoom chat. I'm sharing the drive link. Okay. So in this drive, you will find the source code which Nishit has used, and basically the steps which are required to perform to deploy your Heroku app on the Heroku. That is also given. One document is also given. So always you can refer that and deploy the applications. Right. So those who need recording for this session, please write a mail to care@datamites.com asking for Heroku deployment recording, and they will be helping you out. Right. So any question? All right. So thank you so much for joining this session. Thank you, Nishit, for taking us through this Streamlit deployment. Right. So we will be coming up with more platform deployments, right? And the information will be readily given to you on DTribe. So ending this webinar, thank you so much.